It's a new day on Deep Space Nine and we're in a holosuite. Bashir and O'Brien are inviting Victor Cheesefountain to join them in their Alamo program, an offer he declines and instead starts to sing. The program has other ideas as the entire lounge flips to being something a little more down market. It's more popular at least, which might be due to the new entertainment. Victor doesn't know what's going on and O'Brien assumes it's an error, but the arrival of a new guy called Frankie and his thick-necked mate suggests not. Frankie knows Victor and it would appear they're not friends. He's also just bought the hotel our lounge is in and wants Victor gone. We do all the standard holo program things like trying to just delete Frankie and his henchmen or pause the simulation, but none of it works, so Victor agrees to leave and the two bugger off. Bashir and O'Brien want to fix things obviously, though that might not be so simple. Resetting the program would also reset Victor, meaning he'd remember nothing, so Bashir goes to talk to the guy who made the simulation. Eggnog's very protective of Victor when he finds out what's happening, and Kira's not delighted either. Bashir joins them and O'Brien to say he's found out what's happening. The lad who made the program stuck in a surprise to stop things from getting boring. Having the hotel and casino be taken over by the Mafia is meant to shake things up. The good news is we can solve it by removing Frankie. The bad news is we'll have to do that in keeping with the program, so we can't just delete him. In fact, killing him at all would be unwise, as the mob would likely retaliate, and if Victor Cheesefountain gets caught in the middle, he'll be permanently deleted. Cisco overhears them and makes it clear he has little patience for them talking about it while on shift before leaving. Eggnog and Kira say they'll help out in whatever ways needed, which leaves Bashir to figure out what that will be. If Cisco left to avoid hearing about the program, then he's shit out of luck. News has spread and Cassidy is talking about it over dinner. He wants to change the topic, so she engages in a little malicious compliance by changing it to why he's never visited Victor's lounge. He's non-committal about his reasons and shuts her down, leaving Cassidy unimpressed with his behavior. Speaking of unimpressed with behavior, Bashir and O'Brien aren't chuffed with what Frankie's henchman has done to Mr. Cheese. That's why they suggest he should make himself scarce while they fix the problem, lest Victor end up taking more than just a beating. Odo and Kira are casing the joint. They split up, which means Kira's alone when Frankie takes a liking to her. Frankie's henchman is equally entertained by Odo's tricks, all the better to make him friendly. Friendly people talk, which is how Odo knows Frankie was sent here by someone further up the chain. Big Boss is the one who bought the place and put Frankie in charge, on the condition Big Boss gets a regular cut. Kira was told by Frankie that Big Boss will be visiting in about a week to look things over and take his first payment. Perhaps O'Brien's experience with the Space Mafia has given him a little insight into things, as he asks what would happen if that cut wasn't delivered for whatever reason. The obvious answer gives us a course of action, which means now all we have to do is rob a casino. Kira manages to blag her way into the count room of the casino to get a look at the vault, and Odo convinces Frankie's henchman to give Dax a job as a waitress. Victor Cheesefountain's decided he's not going anywhere and is getting involved too, begging Frankie to give him his old job back by saying he knows some big spenders to bring to the casino. Frankie tells him he'll consider it after Victor's proven he can do what he says. Cassidy's job is to distract a guard, and Cisco hearing about it has him irritated that everybody's taking it so seriously. Cassidy can tell it's not that simple, and manages to get the truth from him about why this whole thing's pissing him off. In short, he thinks a fantasy version of the 1960s where black people were accepted everywhere is a bastardization of history, one that pisses on the very real struggles of anybody from that time. Cassidy disagrees. Victor's lounge is how that time should have been if freed of the bigotry, and a reminder that they're no longer held back by it. Looks like the pep talk worked, as while the group are back in Victor's room and saying they need one more person to make the plan work, Cisco turns up and asks how he can help. That gives us the people we need, so after a heavy study session, we go over the plan. Kira's job is to keep Frankie busy so everybody else can work. Cisco will be one of Victor's promised high rollers, sufficiently flashy to draw attention and distract as many people on the casino floor as possible. These distractions will be ongoing when one of the two count-room guards makes the phone call home to his family that he does at exactly the same time every night. The other guard in the room takes this opportunity to have a drink brought in, so Dax will be delivering it after Bashir adds something to make him puke his guts out. Once Dax has dropped that off, Cassidy will distract the guard in front of the count room by saying O'Brien's nicked some of her gambling chips. While he's busy, the poisoned guard will exit at speed for the nearest chitter, meaning there's nobody outside or in to stop Eggnog cracking the safe. Odo, who'll already be in there because he was the drinks tray Dax was carrying, will store the cash, and then we all walk out and leave Frankie to his fate. The guard on the phone takes precisely 8 minutes, so that's how long we've got to get all of this done, and as Big Boss is coming in just a couple of days, we decide tomorrow night is when we'll be robbing a casino. This is a heist story, so naturally we need a montage of preparations followed by a slow-motion walk like what proper heist stories do. With the clichés out of the way, it's time for the robbery itself. Everybody takes their places and we wait for the first guard to make his phone call. Out he comes and things immediately start going down the shitter. Dax has her drinks knocked over, but Bashir counters by grabbing some others and drugging one of them as he hands it over to her. Problem 2 is that the second guard isn't the guy we were expecting and has been replaced by Gowron without the makeup. He doesn't want a drink, at least not until Dax says she'd like it instead, then he necks it just to be a twat. Dax leaves, which is the cue for Cassidy to start her commotion to distract the guard outside. She and O'Brien have a lovely little argument, during which the second guard runs to the shitter and Eggnog makes his way inside. Problem 3 is the safe. It has a feature Eggnog was unaware of based on Kira's description, meaning it's significantly harder to open. We're committed now though, so despite Eggnog's concerns it'll take too long, we press on. Problem 4 comes as an interruption to Kira distracting Frankie. Big Boss has arrived a day early to collect his cut, and he's not interested in hanging about. Kira's attempts to delay him fail, so off we all go to the count room. Back on the casino floor, Guard 1 has finally finished his slightly longer than usual call. Bashir manages to intercept him on the way back to the count room and convince him Frankie wants him elsewhere. Victor Cheese Fountain sees Big Boss appear and tries his own distraction. It involves pretending he knows the woman accompanying Big Boss, and it lasts right up until Big Boss gets pissed off with him and Frankie's henchman drags him away. Seeing we need yet another distraction, Cisco tosses cash into the air and pandemonium ensues. The combination of delays has done the job. Eggnog opens the safe and Odo loads himself up. The guard outside is trying to hand Cassidy off to someone else so he can go back to guarding, so she starts bawling to keep him looking at her while Eggnog and Odo scarp her. Big Boss finally makes it into the count room with Frankie, where he discovers both an empty metal box that should have a lot of money in it and a sudden desire to make Frankie significantly less alive than he currently is. Frankie's being marched out of the casino via Victor Cheese Fountain's lounge, meaning he's led past the cast who watch it happen. As he leaves, the whole place reverts to its pre-takeover aesthetic. We all have drinks and Victor starts a duet with Cisco because... sure, why not? So we'll leave them to pad out the end of the episode by crooning together until the next adventure. Turn off your brains, kids, it's chicken nugget time. Ira Stephen Bear wanted to indulge his desire for a heist story, so that's what you're getting. Don't ask why Eggnog was needed to crack the safe when Odo was already in there and could have just gooped inside it. Don't ask why Bashir needed to doctor the guard's drink when Dax was already carrying it. Don't ask why the exactly 8 minutes phone call guy chose today to be held back slightly longer. Don't ask why Frankie spilled his guts about his superior in the fucking mafia to someone he'd just met. Don't ask why Frankie, Big Boss, and various assorted mob lads have no issue with a security guard and a waitress sitting at the bar drinking as they're being marched out. To be fair to the episode, this is probably one of the times where all of that genuinely doesn't matter. We're in a holosuite program, so video game rules apply. We need that many people because that's the number of players required to start the quest. A phone call guy takes a bit more time because it's part of an adaptive difficulty setting. Nobody notices them all sitting at the bar for the same reason that guards forget about Solid Snake after the evasion countdown expires. A piece of entertainment media portraying another piece of entertainment media gives us plenty of wiggle room to squeeze through things we'd normally consider plot holes in another story. If all of this sounds dismissive, then let me clarify that's not my intention. There was clearly a fair bit of work put into this one. Dax using a touch of psychology to get not Gowron to take a drink is a nice touch, and I'll give 100 points to whoever told René Auberjonois he needs to keep a constant hand on the suitcase while loading the cash because it's part of him and would revert to a liquid if released. People gave this one some thought, despite its essentially being a throwaway episode. And it does provide a couple of things to spend a little time pondering as well. The obvious one is Sisko's speech about how representing historical situations differently risks becoming revisionism. There's certainly a conversation to be had on that, as well as the more common but opposite point of bigots using realism as an excuse for continued exclusion. There have been plenty of video games where internet randoms have complained about the existence of different skin tones in medieval settings, for example, often while ignoring magic or dragons or some shit. It's refreshing, then, to hear a valid argument from those affected for a change, and more so for it to come with a rebuttal. Limiting your fantasy by referencing the injustices of the past risks becoming a continuation of those very same injustices. Cassidy's argument that celebrating progress does not equate to forgetting history is a solid counterpoint to the past dictating the present and the future. The other nugget we're given to consider is unintentional. We're told that Felix, the lad who programmed all of this, set it up so that Victor Cheese Fountain would be permanently deleted if things went pear-shaped. Now, there's a chance that's bullshit and he made the scenario in such a way that there's no fail state. To use our video game analogy again, Victor's program is more of a cozy adventure than a game you can lose, so creating a framework that recovers from any hit you encounter to make things work out fine in the end regardless makes more sense in that context. You don't tell Bashir there are no real stakes at risk because you want the player to be invested in the story. That's all headcanon on my part though, so let's take a look at what we actually get. A sentient being at risk of deletion to provide entertainment. The core premise of this Jack-in-the-Box as presented to us is entirely barbaric. We are torturing a mind for the lols. And nobody seems to question this at all. Everybody's fully on board with helping him out, sure, but nobody asks why such a situation was considered acceptable in the first place. Nobody stops to ponder the implications of what's being done to him, not by Frankie, but by Felix. We're deep in the weeds of photonic rights again, something covered in more detail by Voyager with the Doctor. Even that chose to stop short of granting him personhood, though, showing that Starfleet isn't exactly that far removed from humanity's past. It does leave us with a question about the future, though. In the same way as Sisko and Cassidy discussed the representation of Victor's lounge in this episode, how long will it be before the Federation has photonic life forms as members, debating whether simulations of the 2370s should show them as oppressed? End of episode.
But you must want to see
American tries British food reaction video.
Everybody wants to see
American tries British food reaction video.
I promise you that neither of us can be less asked about reaction videos. Then why are you part of one right now?
You see, this is an analysis, which means it has academic...
He talks about a thing he's watched.
Now listen here, you little shit.
Are you absolutely sure you don't want
Furry porn.
For the 23rd time, no, we do not want furry porn.
Only I know some
really filthy stuff? Mate, you didn't even know Fair Affinity were .net instead of .com.
I wouldn't trust you with vanilla stuff.
Oh. Then why are you on the internet? I've given you
adult entertainment, fascism,
And
advertising.
Nobody comes on here for anything else these days.
We told you, we're looking for a back door.
so
You want
Homosexual porn.
Oh, for Christ's sake. Woof.